Hey guys, so today we're going to do some white winter birch trees. Some people call them paper birches. We're just going to call them white birch trees. We don't have them down here, but they're beautiful, and y'all know how I feel about trees. So if you are at home, what you're going to want to do is grab a thicker piece of paper. Hopefully, like, you don't have to use just a piece of copy paper. If you can find paper that's a little bit thicker, that'd be better. Then you will need some painter's tape because it's removable. You're going to need watercolors and a water bucket and paint brushes. This is a cool project. It's worth it, I promise. A pencil and maybe a little bit of salt. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing that I want you to do is grab a pencil, and we're going to go ahead and draw the foreground or the front of the paper, like a mini landscape. We're going to draw some freshly fallen snow. Here's the cool thing about this. We can do this in the spring, in the summer. These birch trees are just gorgeous no matter how you look at it. I hope y'all can see this good. You know how the light on my iPivo is. Next, we are going to start making the trees, and we're going to make them using this removable tape. So here's how you handle it. Kind of measure it out, how tall you're going to have it. Now, some videos, they just let you, some art videos that I've looked at in years past, they just stick them on here directly like this. I want the wood of our trees to look super cool. Now, tearing this in half can be tricky or a challenge for some people, but if you'll just take your time, do it right in the middle if you can. Your fingers are going to be sticking. That's what makes it a little bit harder. And you just keep peeling it and peeling it and peeling it and peeling it until you're good to go. I just stick whatever I'm using extra on the side of my desk where I'm working. Now, for this, we're going to want to take it. You're going to put your first strip down. This is going to be one edge of my tree. The reason why I like to tear the tape down the middle is to get this rough edge like an actual tree would have. Then you just wrap the excess around to the back. You don't have to press down hard on it. We're going to take the other side of the tape. See this straight edge? See this straight edge? We're going to overlap them just a bit. These are tall, thin trees. And you just lay it right here. And then we have the actual shape of those trees. Now, down here at the bottom where it's uneven, I could have made that. I was talking and looking at the same time. So I'm just going to peel this up a bit and tear that little bitty piece off. Okay. Now let's go on to another tree. Your paper might be bigger, so you can do as many trees as you want. This is a fun little project. So I'm going to do, this is another version for those kids having a hard time tearing tape. Just tear off a couple of pieces and stick them to your table or wherever you are. And we'll just do short pieces to make the tree. So I'm going to make a tree, I don't know, back here. So tear it in half. You're going to lay one side with the rough edge out just to get it started, like so. And then I'm going to go ahead and build it up. Make sure you put the rough edge on the outside. I have dog hairs everywhere. I'm at school, and I still have dog hairs everywhere. Okay, and then I'm going to line this up. And then it's going to go up and off the top of the page. I take my other little piece of tape, and I'm going to do the same side. Same thing going up. It's just that I'm using two separate pieces of tape that are shorter to make it easier for some of you. Some of you that have tape rolling up and on yourself. So I'm going to come down here, flip it in reverse. The edge, the outside edge of this tree, we want it to be rough looking. So, like that, like so. Then I'm going to come up. Uh-oh, I got a little piece here. No problem. Tear off a little bit. Rip it. Flip it, and reverse it. Okay. Now I'm going to do the last little birch tree. Go ahead and make sure it's long enough. Tear it in half. Okay. Rough edge on the outside. Here's my last and final tree. Gently rub that in. I'm going to take my other side. Make sure the flat edges overlap each other. This is where the machine made it. We don't want any machine-made edges. I'm going to line this up. Let me show you how to line this up the right way. Line this up at the bottom where they're basically even. And then you just stick it, wrap it around to the back. Now, if you want to get super fancy with this, hocus pocus, focus. If you want to get really fancy with this, they have all these black thin limbs that are coming out here. I'm just going to do an example with a few. You can keep the straight edges, but you want to tear these real thin, like real thin. If they come off short, that's okay. So I'm just going to start sticking these up here. Oh, there's a little bitty one. Maybe I could make a branch out of that. Or I could have doubled it up and used it as part of another branch, kind of like these trees. Come over here on this side, wrap it, tear it. Yeah, I might not do this on all the trees, so I'm very worried about this software that I'm using cutting off before 20 minutes, and this is going to be a longer art project. All right, I'm just going to stick this over here. All right, pretend I did all the tops of the trees. Now, before we start adding watercolor, what you're going to want to do is make these look like they're in the snow. So draw a little oval shape. It could be a rough oval shape. We're going to need that later for each one of your trees, like they're actually in the snow. So I'm just drawing basically around it. And then as light as a feather, come up on the sides of this, on the side of your trees, to the edge of the snow. There's hardly any there. Some of you guys might have really long lines, depending on where you drew or put your tree. We're going to erase these lines later. This just lets us know where the snow is compared to where the paper is. All right, time for some watercolor. Now, if you want to use salt, the salt is going to give a really cold effect. It'll like crystallize and makes it look like, not that it's snowing outside, although it can look like that. It just makes it look like it's really cold outside, really frosty. So let me get all this stuff out of the way. Now, you can choose to add a sun on here, or you can just paint your landscape however you want to. If I wanted to draw the sun or the moon, I can most certainly do that. It can be a nighttime scene if you want to. I'm going to use blue violet. That's one of my very favorite colors. I don't know why, I just like it. So I'm going to grab some water and make a baby swimming pool, like a little baby swimming pool for insects. That makes it easier to work with your watercolor. Remember not to dig in your watercolor. And I'm just going to start. While this is still soaking wet, if you want it to look wintry, you just grab some salt and gently put it in there. If you wait until the watercolor is dry, this does not work. So I'm going to keep on trucking. Now, you guys don't have to paint the way I am. I just like to, I'm going to be blending in a minute. Oh, I almost forgot to put the salt on there. Since I started, I'm just going to keep using it. I'm going to be blending different colors along the way. Like I don't know, maybe a sunset. So y'all also don't need to go crazy with the salt. Whew, the past I've had a kid just dump the whole container over on it. No. While it's still wet, I'm gonna go. Oop, I made some real droplets, dots and droplets. And last but not least, I'm gonna come down here. So I'm painting. Oops, I've got some of my snow. It'll be all right. Oh, it's too dry already over here. Now I'm going to add in another color. Oh, wait. So let's say I need shadows on my tree. So maybe my sun is right over here. I'm going to have the trees cascading their shadows down and off the paper. So I'm going to pretend like that's the sun. So if the sun's right here on this tree, your sun can be anywhere, by the way. I'm just having mine right here. I'm going to use this blue beside it just so you can see the difference in colors. All I do is I'm going to do this part now instead of waiting. Have this coming down off the snow line. If it gets too dark, just grab a Kleenex. Oh, I have a paper towel right here. If you think it's too dark, which I do, I'm going to dab it, press, lift, and come up off there. And now this, since the sun's right here, it's going to get a little bit straighter going off the page. And that is also too dark. You know, like how dark it is. Okay. It's a lot to think about with this one. All right, I'm moving this back out of the way for right now. I'm going to add in my next color. I'm going to add red violet in here. You guys, if you only have the 8 set, use whatever colors you want to. It can be a glorious sunrise or sunset. Just going to let that touch the blue violet color. Got to remember that salt as you're going. If you don't have salt, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, I know you do have salt, but if you don't have it with you, that's all right. Don't even worry about it. And then what color for my last few streaks? I'm going to use yellow orange because this is my sunset, and these are the colors I like to see. So adding some water in there, rolling my brush around. Let one color touch the other. Salt. A little salt. If you get off the edges, I mean, if you get into the snow like I have, you can dab it off, but I just don't worry about it because watercolor is kind of persnickety that way. You know what I mean? Sometimes it just acts up. What? The salt is definitely going to come off later. When this dries, you can wipe it off with your hand or leave it. All right, so I have what I think is a beautiful sunset happening. Now the next step, as far as a hill goes, see this snow hill right here? I'm going to have it be this icy blue color too. So I'm just going to have like little lines coming off of the icy blue color. And you can dab that if it gets a little too dark for you. Now, I'm going to rip this off while it's still wet. You can do that. Sometimes, especially if your paper's thin, like copy paper, don't do that. Like, just wait until it dries. When you're tearing this off, if the paper rips, don't worry about it. Just be real gentle as you're peeling it off. Remember, if the paper underneath here, like this paper right there, rips, it still gives a cool rough edge effect to it, just like a tree would have. And watch your fingerprints. Look, I'm getting fingerprints everywhere because I am not waiting for the paint to dry. Okay, so we got that cool white birch tree effect happening. I sure hope this screencastify is still recording, or I'm going to be very upset about it. Ooh, that's some messy work. The last part, you're going to need well, you don't have to have one, but you're going to use a thinner paintbrush if you do have one, or be very careful and use just the very tip top of your paintbrush. We're going to add some black on here. So this is the paintbrush that came with, get out of my way. This is the paintbrush that came with this kit. It's spraying for those of y'all. Anyway, usually they're pretty thin. So we're going to put black on here, and we're going to go along the edges of our tree and just kind of go along the edge. Let it spill out if you need to, and you're going to push and then pull up and then push and pull up. And then we're going to give this tree some rings just by using the tip. Ring around the tree. You can have some on either side, but try not to press down hard because it looks weird if you do. It makes it look not as natural. So I'm just going to put some of these lines around here. I'm going to use the same. You'll notice that I haven't had to dip it back into the black yet. If you want to put some lines along the edge of the other side of the tree, do it. I'm going to do that there. The base of the tree is usually pretty wet, so it starts pulling up that snow and water through the base of the tree. So if that turns a little bit blacker down there at the bottom, that's cool. The branches are usually solid black, so you can just color in your branches on your tree all the way. And then, just for added detail, if you have time, add some dots on here where bugs or insects or birds or whatever have pecked into the tree or nature. Then they also have cool little triangle shapes on them. So if you want to add triangle shapes, you can press on your brush and lift just to make the shape of a triangle if you have time. So that'll do it. Oh, one more thing. If you do have little strips of poster board, listen, this is thicker. To make this part easier, it's kind of another cool technique. They don't really make the poster board like they used to at school, or I would have y'all do this when we're at school. You just kind of paint along the edge here of the thicker poster board. You can also cut up like credit cards and use the sides of them, and you paint the edge, and you take the poster board and you just kind of do this and make a sweeping motion across. That makes a super cool effect for one of these trees. I wonder if I can use this. Just go all the way with it. I actually love this method. It's just so hard to find good, thick poster board around here anymore, where it doesn't cost too much for us to get at the school. Guys, I only painted one side of this one time, and check that out. Sweet. Gives a whole different kind of effect. I'm going to take the corner of this poster board, and I can achieve the little triangle notches. And if I tip it up and just use the very base of this poster board and give the same effect. Here's one last thing. I can also draw with it and add the stripes on top of the trees. If I paint this edge, I can really take care of business with the branches on here. So if I come across and just paint down a little bit, these are my branches, and the branches can overlap one another. You can just draw it out with this. It works really cool. So hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. And if you did and were able to use all these supplies at home, get it and send it to me. Take a picture and send it to me. You guys take care, and I will talk to you later. I don't know how to make it stop because there's no shortcut.